Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me here today. My name is J.R. Garrick, and I'm obviously part of the Trust Funds team and very, very excited to be with you here and help educate you on this great product. Just to give you a little background on myself, I was actually a former real estate agent in the Minneapolis market for about 13 to 14 years. So I'm definitely familiar with the real estate business, and I know and understand many of the challenges that you guys face every day. I would strongly encourage you that if you haven't used trust funds yet, that you start using it when you can. It'll make things so much easier with regards to how the earnest money process is handled. So before we get started, if you have any questions during the presentation, if you can just please jot those down, and then at the very end, we'll circle back and answer any and all questions you have. Also, at the very end, I'll give you our support contact information, both our support email address as well as their phone number. Started. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about why you'd want to use trust funds. What does it look like for you as a real estate agent to send an earnest money payment request? Also, we're going to take a look at what the buyer is going to do, what their forms look like, and what they have to fill out in order to make their payment with trust funds, so you're familiarized with that. And then lastly, I want to show you where your trust funds agent profile is located and some of the customizable features that are available within that profile. So you guys are obviously very familiar with some of the pain points of a paper check, because this is probably what you've been doing in your business for a long time now. First off, it's very inconvenient to have to get a check from your buyer. We all know that many times when that purchase agreement is written, they may not have their checkbook, or to have to get meet up with them later to get a check, or have them send a check in the mail, or find another option is just very, very inconvenient and time consuming. The other thing we know is that many times during the earnest money process, the status of the earnest money is unknown. And because of it, it leads to a lot of extra unnecessary communication between agents, trying to figure out, hey, where's the earnest money? Did you drop it off? Did you send it in the mail? Where's it at? And then the other thing we know is, having to get a check is many, many times less secure than if they were to use trust funds. I've actually heard of a lot of situations where agents have actually lost the earnest money check. And we know that all that information that's on the front of a check, that's all somebody would need in order to commit check fraud. So when a buyer uses trust funds, their banking information is fully encrypted and it's kept very, very secure. The other thing we know is, many times the compliance of the earnest money and the timing of it has become very, very loose. So when an agent utilizes trust funds with their buyers, it really helps them to be in compliance of their contracts. Just to give you an idea, just kind of put it in perspective for you, when a buyer submits their payment with trust funds, that is at the same point in time where, had they turned in a paper check, the check would be handed to the teller at the bank account. So when you think about it, you've literally bypassed, all those upfront steps of getting the check, turning it into the broker, and the broker eventually gets it over to the bank. So when trust funds is used, things just happen much, much quicker, much faster than the old way of getting a check. And then the other thing is, we know that more and more agents are using electronic contracts. So it really helps to complete the electronic transaction. So a couple of things here. Here's what I will tell you. It'll take me a lot longer to explain to you how to use trust funds than it'll ever take you to use it. The first time you use it, I'd be surprised if it takes you more than 2 minutes to send an earnest money payment request. I mean, it is very, very simple, very easy to use. And probably the greatest thing about this product is it's embedded right within your MLS. It's right within NorthstarMLS. You don't have to create another set of login credentials. You don't have to download an app. It's right there. So it's very, very easy to use. I mean, this is where you guys go. This is where you do your business. So it's very accessible. As far as sending an earnest money payment request with trust funds, the real estate agent representing the buyer is always the one that initiates the process. Basically, what they'll do is they'll log into the MLS. they'll locate the property. They'll go to the detail property photo page that their buyer is now under contract on. And then they'll click on the trust funds earnest money link or icon. And that's so we can have you fill out a little bit of information about your buyer, and then we'll send an email to them and they'll go ahead and submit their payment online. It's a very, very simple, but most importantly, it's a very, very secure process. And it's my understanding that in NorthstarMLS, you guys have a couple different platforms you can use. So on the Matrix platform, and this just happens to be in another market that uses Matrix, basically what the agent representing the buyer will do is they'll go to the detail property photo page of that listing, and they'll click on the trust funds earnest money link or icon. If you happen to use the Flex platform, the icon is listed just above the property photo, like you see here. And if you happen to use the Paragon platform, it's located just to the right of the photo. So once the agent clicks on the trust funds earnest money link or icon, it'll take them to this page. And this is 100% of what you'll need to do, what you'll need to fill out as the agent representing the buyer. So one of the things I always like to point out about this page is we always pull the main property photo from the MLS. And that was done on purpose to provide a visual confirmation of that agent that they are in fact sending an earnest money payment request for the right property. So the very first thing they'll do is they will check the box that they have a fully executed purchase agreement. It's really, really important that agents only send a payment request once they have a fully executed purchase agreement. And the reason for that is once the buyer submits their payment, that payment's going to start to process and it's going to move to the company that's been indicated. Then the next thing they'll do is they'll choose who's going to be holding or receiving the earnest money. In NorthstarMLS, I checked this morning, there's 453 companies currently signed up with trust funds. So you should get plenty of opportunities to utilize the tool. I think there's only a few of those are title companies. Most of those are real estate companies. And then from there, you'll fill in some information about your buyer. So you put your buyer's name, your buyer's email address, the amount of the earnest money as what was agreed upon in the purchase agreement. And then we have you come up with the secret word. And this part of the process is very, very important. It's very low tech, but it's highly effective when it's done correctly. All this does is it's going to add another layer of security around this process. And I always tell real estate agents, it doesn't matter what the word is. I've heard of a lot of agents who will use a word that's maybe specific to their clients or their experience with their clients. Doesn't really matter. So you'll go ahead and type in a word, also not to put any strange characters in there. And then we recommend that you either verbally communicate to your buyer or send the secret word to them in a text message. Also let them know that they do not have to enter it anywhere. They just need to know what it is. Because basically what happens is an email is going to be sent to them. And once they open up their secure payment form to make their payment, the secret word is one of the things that will appear on that payment form. Again, it just creates another layer of security around this process. Then from there, you'll check the box that the buyer will pay the convenience fee. A buyer will pay an $8 convenience fee in order to use trust funds. And then you'll go ahead and click Notify Buyer. Once you've done that, an email is automatically sent to the buyer, inviting them to submit their earnest money payment securely with trust funds. This is exactly what that email looks like. So a couple things I like to point out about this email. Again, we pull in the main property photo from the MLS, as well as that agent's information. And if that agent has uploaded their stock real estate photo within their agent profile of trust funds, it'll show up here. So basically what that does is it just shows that buyer that, hey, this is a legitimate payment form email sent over to them from trust funds. So you can see in the top paragraph, we basically congratulate them on the purchase of their new home and invite them to securely submit their earnest money payment with trust funds. So they'll go ahead and click on the big blue Submit Earnest Money Payment button. And then that will give them access to a secure payment form within our system where they can make their payment. And this is exactly what that payment form looks like. So you'll see in the upper left corner, there's the earnest money amount. And that amount is actually hard coded, so the buyer cannot change or modify it. Then the buyer's name will appear. And then the rest of the information on this form is what they will need to fill out in order to make their payment with trust funds. So the very first thing they'll do is they'll put their name as it's listed on the bank account they're going to be using. This is really, really important that they put the correct name and they don't use any nicknames. So I go by the name JR, and I have really since about kindergarten, but my real name is Justin. And if I were to submit an earnest money payment with trust funds, I would have to use the name Justin Garrick because that's how my bank knows me. So they'll put their name as it's listed on the bank account they're going to be using. Then they'll indicate whether they're going to be using a checking or savings account. Another one of the many benefits of trust funds is as long as their bank or credit union allows for an ACH transaction from, say, a savings account, they could use their savings account. Then we have them put their full routing number and their full account number. We actually have them put their account number in for a second time to make sure it matches up and that there wasn't any typos. And then down below, there's 3 items that they have to acknowledge. The very first one, they have to acknowledge that the secret word that their agent has told them matches on this payment form. And then they have to agree to the terms and conditions of using trust funds. And then they have to agree to pay the $8 convenience fee. Once they've done that, they'll go ahead and click process payment. And immediately all parties involved will get an email notification letting them know the earnest money has been submitted. So the real estate agent representing the buyer, the listing agent, and the company receiving the funds will all get an email notification letting them know the earnest money has been submitted and taken care of. Also, just so you know, right after that buyer submits their payment, this window will pop up. And this is something that more and more buyers are taking advantage of. Currently, it takes a payment 4 business days to fully clear into the trust account. If a buyer creates a 4-digit PIN after they've submitted their payment, they would then be able to have access to their full earnest money payment history form once that payment clears or settles into the trust account. Again, this is something that more and more buyers are taking advantage of. In the event that your buyer did not do this, I will show you exactly where you'll need to go in order to provide them with the full earnest money payment history form. Now I want to show you some of the tools that are available within your trust funds agent profile. So this is called your transaction table. Any transaction that you have going on in which trust funds has been used will automatically show up in your transaction table. And this is great because it's got all the details of the transaction in one place. And this is for whether you're using trust funds on the buy side of the transaction or the listing side of the transaction. The automatic default setting is it'll show you the last 60 days of transactions, but you can see in the upper right window, you can modify your start and end date and look at any time period you would like. Now, the other tool I want to show you, probably the most important tool, is the view history or magnifying glass. So you can go to any transaction that you have going on in which trust funds was used and click on that view history or magnifying glass. And if you do that, it'll take you to this page. This is your full earnest money payment history form. You can see that this has all the details of the transaction in one place. It's got the address, the MLS number, the buyer's name, buyer's information, listing agent, buyer's agent. And then down below, you can see we timestamp every step of the process. So you'll actually be able to see when the email was sent to the buyer, when they opened up the payment form, when they submitted their payment, and then when the payment ultimately clears or settles into that trust account. It's my understanding that this is the form that companies and real estate agents are keeping with their files as proof the earnest money has been paid. So you have the ability, you can actually print this out as a PDF or download it as a PDF and save it that way if you'd like. Also, you have the ability to send access to this form to someone. Maybe you need to send access to this form to your buyer or a lender. We all know that lenders, want to know that the earnest money has been paid. All you do is you click on that big blue send access button. This window will pop up. You'll indicate who you're going to be giving access to this form, whether it's the buyer or someone else. Then we have you create a 4-digit PIN, because basically what happens is an email will be sent to that person, and they will need that 4-digit PIN in order to access the full earnest money payment history form. So basically how you get there, and I kind of flipped around there. I'm going to show you how you get to your TrustFunds agent account. Automatically, all agents in NorthstarMLS have a TrustFunds agent account. It's set up for you. You don't have to create another set of login credentials. How you would get there if you're using the Matrix platform, when you log in, you would go to external links, and then you'd go to TrustFunds. If you happen to be using the Flex system, you would log in, and then you would go to menu, and then you go to products, and then you go to TrustFunds. If you're happen to use the Paragon system, Paragon platform, you would log in and you would go to resources, and then you go to TrustFunds agent access. This will take you to your TrustFunds agent account, which basically looks like this. Now, a few screens ago, I showed you your transaction table. Basically, you would just go to, when you're in there, you'll see your name and your company in the upper right. But where it says transactions, that's how you get to your transaction table. Your TrustFunds agent profile, agent account is a great place to get familiarized with, because there's some really, really good how-to videos and PDF guides here. But in addition to that, there's some other things you can do. And a few screens ago, I showed you how to get to your transaction table. Again, you just click on transactions, and then it would take you to that transaction table. And then as far as getting to your full earnest money payment history form, you would just go to the actions column and click on the view history or magnifying glass. And then that will give you access to your full earnest money payment history form. In addition to that,
couple of questions that have come in, JR.
Sure,
This is Mandy
sure.
with NorthstarMLS.
Yep.
One person wants to know, is there a limit as to how much money can be placed in the account?
Oh, as far as earnest money, the earnest money payment?
I believe so.
Yeah, so every company, depending on their kind of risk settings by the processor, they may have a different different amount, but I know 100,000 is the max limit in a day, but each company has a different. I can't really say, it's this amount or that, because some companies have different risk limits. So it's just kind of depending upon that company and how they have it set up.
Gotcha. Next question of 2 of 3 here. How can a broker who manages multiple offices set up trust funds? Does each office have to have a separate account?
No. A company can sign up, and all their offices are automatically tied, to their main broker office ID. So they don't have to manage them separately. They're all tied together.
Great. And then last question is, if a purchase agreement cancels, how is the money handled in trust funds?
Yeah, so basically what happens there, if purchase agreement were to be canceled, the company who has received the earnest money, they would be the ones that would initiate a refund. I would say the majority of companies that are signed up with us utilize the refund tool, and they would be able to refund right back to that buyer. But that's up to the company holding the funds as far as how they like to do that. I know there's a few companies in Northstar that still prefer to send out a check.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions, or should I move on?
That's all I see in the queue right now.
Okay, perfect. Now I want to show you guys some of the other things you can do within your profile. So when you're in your agent account, again, you'll see your name and company in the upper right. If you were to click on that, a little window will open up, and then you can go to your profile. There's really 4 things that you can do within your agent profile. There's your profile information tab. There's your notifications as far as how you'll get notified when trust funds is used. There is a team function, which we'll talk about. And then there's an area where if you as an agent would like to pay for those convenience fees on behalf of your clients, you could do that. Really, all you need to do in your agent profile is really 2 things. The first thing, and probably the most important, is to just go in there and upload your stock real estate photo. That way, anytime you send a payment request, it's going to be branded with your photo and information. And then the other thing I'd recommend doing is just check in here that all your information is up to date and accurate. We at Trust Funds, we do not have any way of changing or modifying any of this information. It all comes over to us through the data feed from your MLS. So if there's any information that's outdated, you'll need to update that in your profile area within your MLS. And then through the data feed, it'll get updated with trust funds. And it usually takes about 40 minutes to an hour for that data feed to get updated. So the next thing I want to talk about is your notifications, your ability to get notified when trust funds is used. So in addition to having your transaction table that shows you all your transactions, you can get notified whenever trust funds is used. When you're representing buyers, you will get an email notification when the earnest money has been submitted, settled, returned, and then if there was an error for some reason. On the listing side of the transaction, you will get an email notification when the earnest money has been submitted, settled, and returned. Now, if there's any notification status that you'd like to change or modify, all you do is simply uncheck the box. Just a reminder that from the start, the default setting is that all those boxes are going to be checked. So the next thing I want to talk about is the team function. We've actually created a full team function. We know that many of you are on teams or you have assistants. So this is a very, very helpful feature because you can actually have someone that's a team member send an earnest money payment request on your behalf. If you wanted to add someone to your trust funds team, all you do is open up that team window and you would click on the big blue add team member button and you would be able to add someone from your company roster. All you do is find that person, click on them. Basically what happens is an email is sent to them inviting them to be part of your trust funds team. They would have to accept your invitation. And once they do that, they would be part of your trust funds team. And then that person would also be able to send earnest money payment requests on your behalf. And then on the right side of this window, if you've been added to someone else's team, it'll show up here. And then the last thing within your profile that I want to talk about is your ability to pay for convenience fees, if that's something you're interested in. I'm certainly not suggesting that, but if that's something you'd like to do, you know, our company's created some nice flexibility and giving you some good options here. The default setting is that the buyer will pay for the convenience fee every time. If you've decided you want to set this up, you'll actually have to provide your banking information. We do not process credit cards. We do not process debit cards. So you have to put your full routing and full account number in for the bank account that you'd like to use. Once you've done that, we'll send a small test transaction to that account. Usually it's for a few cents, somewhere between 2 to 7 cents. Once you see that in your account, you know, the test transaction, you'll just come back into your trust funds agent profile and enter it. If it's 2 cents, you enter 0.02. And then from that point on, you'll be able to pay for convenience fees on behalf of your clients. And you can set it up. There's two ways you can do that. You can either set it up to decide on a transaction by transaction basis, or you can set it up that you're just going to pay for those convenience fees every time. The only
JR,
thing
question
Oh,
related
sure.
to that too is came in from Joanna. What does it cost the brokerage to have a trust funds account?
Yeah, great question. So companies that want to receive earnest money electronically into their trust account, they pay a monthly subscription fee, and it's a scaled pricing. It's based on the number of closed listings they had in the previous year. So it's anywhere from $25.50 up to $169 a month. It's dependent upon volume. Any other questions? All right. And then the last thing that I want to mention is we have a phenomenal customer support staff, and we're always available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. So if you or a team member or your clients ever have any trust funds related questions or needs, you can always reach out to us. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can either email us at support@trustfunds.us.com, Or you can actually call us. We have an 800 number, and someone is always answering that phone, and that number is 888-249-1616. So with that, that is all the information I have for you guys. Does anyone have any other questions? I'll check the chat too.
It looks like one just came in.
Okay, let's see if I can. Is there a fee for a return trust funds transfer, i.e. on a canceled transaction? No, there's not. The buyer pays an $8 convenience fee in order to utilize the service. For the company that, the company that is holding the earnest money, they pay 25 cents to utilize the refund tool. Let's see.
This came in too.
First question, can you practice using this? Yeah, you can go into a listing, you can click on the icon and see what it looks like. I just wouldn't send a payment, payment request. I mean, if you want on your listing, you could do it. And send a payment request to yourself if you want to see what it looks like. Does the broker have to be involved with monthly fee? Yeah, this is a really good question. So all real estate agents within NorthstarMLS can utilize this tool, even if their company is not signed up with us. They can use trust funds to send a secure payment request to their buyers. The main thing, the most important thing is wherever their earnest money is going, that company has to be signed up with trust funds, to receive the funds. Can this be used with just the $5 fee to buyer as needed, or do you have to subscribe? I'm not sure. Can this be used with just the $8 fee to buyer as needed, or do you have to subscribe? Yeah, so all real estate agents can utilize the tool even if their company is not signed up. I think that's what you're asking there. Any other questions? Oh, looks like we ran out. But the broker on the buyer side must be subscribed. No, the broker on the buyer's side does not have to be signed up with trust funds in order for their agents to use the product. The main thing is wherever their earnest money is going, that company has to be signed up. So agents can utilize the tool even if their company is not signed up with us. Any other questions? Oh, here we go. Oh, looks like we got it. All right. Well, thank you for joining me here today. If you do think of something later, you have a question, you can always reach out to our support staff. We'd be more than happy to help you, and we want to make sure you get the most value out of the service.
Thank you, JR.
Yeah, sounds good. Have a great day, guys. Bye now.